meta that have CC frames. That, you know, even if you go for a soft dive kind of playstyle, you're not going to be able to ban out absolutely everything. So having that rocket BRB in the back pocket, even if it doesn't manage to find a pickup, it's still forcing the enemy team to have to rotate deeper around the map to be able to take it down before those fights begin, which buys you a lot more space and opportunity to push onto a team. As we get ready to head into our first round, it's going to be Krakoa, and I expect to see Jeffs getting target banned out immediately.
Yep, Krakoa, definitely a great area for Jeff. Environmental hazards, Na'Vi are not going to be prioritizing the Jeff ban away from Virtus Pro. They're not even going to prioritize the one-sided Mantis. However, they want the Ultron, so we might be looking at an undivables composition here.
I mean, the Ultron is now going to mean that things like that Star-Lord are going to be able to gain a lot of traction, as Virtus Pro now have to decide what exactly they want to use this ban on. Do they go for the Mantis since Na'Vi didn't save it? Or do they start taking things away that the Ultron could potentially pocket? And indeed, there it goes. Star-Lord has been removed. As we've seen on Krakoa, Virtus Pro like having Ultron and Human Torch in play, and Star-Lord was the main thing stopping them.
Yeah, great way to try and counteract the Human Torch or the Ultron. The Rage of Ultron is essentially helpless against Galactic Legend when it gets popped. It's going to be the one-sided Jeff here for Virtus Pro. Why not? It's been a great tool in the hands of Dredro, and now Na'Vi are going to start taking away options from Virtus Pro, knowing that they might not want to go against one-sided Star-Lord here, so they might remove it on their own, and Symbiotic Shenanigans is going to be the priority shutdown.
Yeah, that one's got to go immediately, as Venom doesn't have to worry about soft diving. He can go straight in for the hard dive from the first aggression hit. When he has that Symbiotic Shenanigans sustainability, Na'Vi now are also going to equalize and mirror out that Star-Lord ban, as you can see that Virtus Pro, once again, are still targeting things that this Ultron could potentially pocket. Something else that hasn't been targeted in terms of bans, because, I mean, normally, previously, we wouldn't really see it being worth it, is the Psylocke that Sparker has in the back pocket. If Ultron is in play, Psylocke is going to have a very strong target to turn her attention into, as Virtus Pro are going to use their second save on the Emma Frost to make sure that if they have to play into retakes, they've got things like Psionic Seduction, so that they can actually move forward from their position rather than being bottlenecked into those chokes, plus being able to provide both frontline aggression and peel potential with the Carbon Crush against any dive targets, as Na'Vi still have things like both the Captain America and the Venom in play for their own team.
All right, one-sided Lunar Snow on the docket here for Na'Vi. Virtus Pro, what do they want to remove for their last here? Probably get rid of the Psylocke going to be taken away. Okay, getting that out of Jerky's pool certainly has some value. Whenever it can be very valuable against flying targets, like something, for example, a Human Torch, if it gets dragged out by fire here.
I mean, it also means that Sparker could potentially go Psylocke himself, and as you pointed out, Psylocke still has that projection team up with the Emma. They're going to have some pretty good targets too. The problem for Na'Vi is that they're going to have triple strategists, which means that they should be able to triage against this dive fairly easily. So it's likely just going to be trying to pull as much attention as possible, given the fact that I don't currently see an invisible woman being hovered either. So the patty cake between something like a Luna and an Invis with the Guardian Shield sandwiched in between them makes it a little bit harder for that Psylocke's ultimate to find the same level of value as opposed to just forcing resources and attention.
All right, Krakoa is where it all begins, trying to get a bigger part of that fat prize pool, as well as better seeding at DreamHack Atlanta for international competition. Mox, I couldn't tell you which of our teams is going to walk out on top here. It seems like Citadel is the favorite, but they're all exchanging games and we're all here ready to play at the apex of their abilities.
I tell you what, Citadel's definitely going to be watching as well to see what compositions these teams are going to be fielding towards and what bans are going to be looking like as well, as both of these teams are going to roll out. The first submap is going to be Cradle, which we're going to see Na'Vi actually not getting to lean into having that Adam Warlock still available for them. It is a Ultron Mantis Luna triple strategist lineup that they've decided to go for, as Virtus Pro are going to be putting priority in keeping all of those resources on 5.
A lot of damage going to be pumped out of Jerky here. Asapo is already forced back behind cover. Sparker looking round the outside. Nevix just gets overwhelmed by 3 strategists rolling forward with their primary fires. Trust me, looking towards the back, they want to get rid of the Landshark around the side. Naga forced to flee away using that quick dash, but Sparker's dashes are even faster. Despite being down on one of their vanguards, Virtus Pro still have great positioning on the point of their focus fire. Allows them to cut through Na'Vi and claim first point.
That's the value of the Star-Lord ban. We can see it here. Naga might be on the Ultron, but pocketing Jerky is a lot harder than pocketing a Star-Lord who has things like those iframes to make sure that the drone is being able to keep maximum uptime. And Virtus.pro now with first control on the board get to start exerting pressure with both the Psylocke and Captain America jumping onto Na'Vi, stalling at their approach, and allowing Fi and Saipe better spam angles.
Better spam, more chance to get those ultimates ready. Finz has already lost the majority of their shield here, so he's not going to stick around for long, but it was all a distractionary measure to allow Nevix to get round the back, spinning kick Mantis into a green-colored jam against the wall. Yummy.
Na'Vi just aren't getting any dive opportunities either because they don't really have anything to send with Trust Me. Normally it would be a Star-Lord, potentially a Psylocke, but Parker actually banned that one out, so he doesn't have to worry about lane controlling another Psylocke with a Venom and an EMEA, and a Psylocke with a Luna advantage too. Virtus.pro in full control of the space. Finzy's just going to be able to scout the rotations coming through from Na'Vi. Doesn't want to go too close, because he knows that Rajara is going to have that Carbon Crush available, but every single time, Saipe is also getting a bird's eye angle into seeing what the Venom is doing, calling that out to his team so they can counter-rotate away.
Saipe is kind of intractable up here as well. You can't really remove him with any ease. The second he takes any damage, can get back behind the cover of the Dancer of Butterflies up against the patty cake, but it falls on through, and so the slashes can be concentrated up to the sky. An attempt at vengeance from Naga, and while it will come on through, it's not without price. Five's flame clusters managed to carve through metal.
Oof, Trust Me goes down late too. He'll at least be back relatively quickly, but you can already see Virtus.pro starting to rotate to figure out whether or not Na'Vi are going to look for the portal behind the point, or if they're going to rely on the Doctor Strange. And it is going to be Rajari swapping over to the Doctor Strange. Naga actually goes over to the Cloak and Dagger, so they can maybe find a blind to take one of these players down early.
Of a Cloak and Dagger, I think it may have faded to Rajara while he was channeling that portal. We saw Tridro going for Eat once again, but Na'Vi have played these games before, and they've seen all of the potential answers to it. The Ensong Inferno takes to the skies, and the Soul Bond has already expired. Fincy still can't stand up to this one, and Na'Vi flip the point.
Naga actually going over to the Atom is great news, though, for that composition, because not only were they able to have Soul Bond without having to build up an ultimate, they've now got a level of hit scan to keep pressure onto both the Torch and that Ultron that Virtus.pro, not in control of the space, are going to have to try and get through, taking all of the tax of attention as Nevix on that EMEA does have some selection. Fi's going to pop the Supernova prematurely and use it to split the backline from the Vanguards.
Seeing a little bit of uptime, and of course some of those are interceded as well by the Guardian Shield that was raised on up. Invisible Boundary, an attempt to drag someone from it, but Rajara just holds up the shield of a Seraphim, and the rest of Na'Vi are cuddled up nice and warm behind it. Trust Me, isolated in a 1 versus 3. You can see these constant right clicks trying to stop the disengagement as they do have displacement effects. The Rage of Ultron rains on down towards the back lines of Na'Vi as Rajara makes an intercessant maneuver. Out comes both. Oh, what an interrupt. Trust Me loses the ultimate, but Nevix pays for being so far forward to try and challenge that Vanguard. The remainder of the team is damage boosted here by Fate's Fate of Both Worlds. That's a confusing one. Rajara has the Eye of Agamotto.
I mean, it was also a CC cancel too, so Trust Me, we'll have Feast of the Abyss to channel with Jerky's Ensong Inferno within this next fight, and Virtus.pro do not have a lot of sustainability in the face of those two ultimates being combined. Nevix is going to look to portal directly onto Naga to try and force out the Soulbind, or find the pick onto the Adam Warlock, burn that self-cocoon before Karmic Revival can come on through.
Seems like Naga's pulled a fast one, though. Drudro from elsewhere, looking over towards Fate, prioritizing trying to grab that Luna Snow, and indeed will be able to work that one out. Grabs her own Doctor Strange, so there's no shield to defend them. Rajara managed to move in with the daggers of Dinak and hold strong upon the point. Fincy believes it might be winnable, and so pops the Freedom Charge. The hallowed cries of freedom here will match with just the material plane, dragging back Pot of Greed, played by Naga to draw 2 friends and add them to the hand. And indeed, Na'Vi now have all the numbers that they need to try and hold strong on this point. From 99 to 0, it's 99 to 99 and 100 to Na'Vi. What a turnaround.
Flyer composition in a nutshell. Roll your opponent when you have better spam angles. Get rolled when you're trying to play into retake and you're up against that level of attention. They tried to go for these really long wraparounds too, with Fi not going for the challenge of spam, but more putting pressure onto the backline to force Navi's position into using ultimates, which then allowed Nevix to close up the distance with things like Psionic Seduction. But there's just too much sustainability. Level 1 Crook, honestly, even though the Mantis was open, Going over to that Invis woman was absolutely huge because it meant that they had the Guardian Shield to give themselves a little bit more heal AoE when things like that Psylocke tried to go for the jump. And it also meant that they had Invisible Boundary to put onto point so that Virtus Pro, even with the ultimate pressure, couldn't force them off of it for the flip.
Can't remember if it was Fate or Naga as well, but the swap over to that Cloak and Dagger to get the Dark Force teleportation, giving Rajaro the iframe against a potential eat on that portal was crazy. Because not only did it mean that Rajaro got the portal off and they got the final contest, but also that Drijo got the self-stun from missing the ultimate and then was easily pickable by the remainder of Na'Vi who were gathered up.
Saipe is going to be able to build Rage of Ultron incredibly quickly in this next engagement. Finzi already going to be trying to put pressure onto that backline to stop Na'Vi from getting to play aggressive over towards the objective with both the Eye of Agamotto and Invisible Boundary that they know they have an advantage against in terms of ultimate economy. Out comes the Ensong Inferno first, trying to target 5. Doesn't manage to find the pick, and in the meantime, Naga actually got down.
Naga going to be able to self-revive here with the Cocoon Revival. Rajaro tanking a good number of those slashes from Sparker. The sustainability for the rest of Virtus Pro was kept up by Saipe's Rage of Ultron, but Sparker managed to fall through the cracks. And now Trust Me looks towards the back. Access to the Jeff. Playing around that tree stump does make it a little bit harder for the Venom to be able to try and connect with the Dark Predations as they take to the sky and get another frenzied arrival in towards the back line. Seems like Na'Vi have most of the space control here with Trust Me just standing on business until we get first cap.
Yeah, that's going to be first cap going that way, but not full control of the space. So Fine and Saipe are going to have a little bit more terrain to be able to find themselves cover. As we can see, Trust Me scouting out Finzi so that the Captain America doesn't provide an opportunity for everyone to turn their heads away from the flyers vulnerable up in that sky. Rajaro with the Eye of Agamotto being very careful about Navix, but that's Carbon Crush already on cooldown.
Supernova popped out here by Fine. Nice right-click stun coming through from Jerky, forcing Sparker to just dash away. And Fine's had to take cover here, knowing that they can't carve through the healing provided by the Fate of Both Worlds. The Fate of Both Worlds is over, and Nevix is stunned out now by Rajaro. But it's Drijo around the outside with eyes on a couple of strategists. Question is, can Drijo survive this one? Is going over towards the outside. There are no mobility options to be had. No Cocooned Revival either. And so it's a double for Drijo. Environmental hazards claim the backline of Na'Vi. And that's a flip for VP.
Not just that, but Adam, if he goes off of the map, actually doesn't get the opportunity to go for a Cocoon Revival. So the Jeff, even if it was up, would have been able to prevent him from joining into that fight with Karmic Revival and stalling the point long enough for Na'Vi to build up the ultimate economy of Invis Boundary and Feast of the Abyss, or Invis Boundary and Ensong Inferno, when Virtus Pro have no choice but to hold themselves directly on that point or let it flip. Spark is going to be trying to build up the Dance of the Butterflies to force out that Invis Boundary early. But again, Na'Vi with the Karmic Revival, they've got so much sustainability after it hits.
Jerky refreshes their HP bar as well. Looked like they were only 35 when they launched that one, so definitely was a lot of pressure towards the back. Activate the patty cake, or better yet, just the invisible boundary. Everyone just groups on up as Saipe falls down to the ice starts. Hit scan from downrange. Fates finds that. Vinci can't survive for long without the additional healing given over by that Ultron. And Fi now just working off the back of being an unhittable menace, but Jerky didn't get the memo. A direct use of the flame cluster to destroy that particular individual, and Virtus Pro are forced off the point.
Yeah, Na'Vi find the flip with Karmic Revival in hand, and they can stagger themselves too. They can have Trust Me hold on to the point objective while everyone gets set up for the res, and then when everyone's set up for the res, the Venom can absorb that position on the point. Fi's going to be coming real close to the Supernova though, and Naga has already used the self-cocoon too. So if Virtus Pro with either the Torch or the Psylocke can track the Adam's location down, they should be able to stop the ultimate prematurely.
Fi's at least got a good angle to try and work with here. And without these low ceilings and choke points, it's a little bit more easy for the flyer composition to try and make a retake happen. Drijo looking towards the back. The pressure's already there. Flying above it all is Rajaro. Only the Invisible Woman is grabbed, and this is not the easiest environmental frag. You might have to commit real hard for this one. And indeed, it's the ultimate commitment. An 07 in the chat as we salute Drijo for their sacrifice given. Virtus Pro now, they've got to try and deal with the resurrection. They've interrupted Naga. They've managed to get level 1. Can Naga self-revive? It seems like it's going to be on cooldown still, and now Na'Vi just doing their best to fight for what remains, but the Vanguards don't have the healing. They're picked apart from all angles, and Virtus Pro get back in control.
The crucial thing for Virtus Pro is that they didn't have to burn the Supernova or the Dance of the Butterflies. Na'Vi brought level 1 Crook back with the Karmic Revival, but Invis boundary was not up, so Virtus Pro was still able to roll on through with just base abilities alone. Now they've got control of that space. Yes, they again have to worry about the hit scan angles coming on through from that Atom, but they're going to be able to stall Na'Vi's approach. As we can see, they have no choice, but instead of walking main, to wrap all the way around the back of the point, using all of the walls to provide cover from that spam damage, which means the Supernova is going to be able to clear them out.
Saipe drops on in towards the back. Has to be careful of Rajara potentially going for a counterplay here. Soul Bond shares out the damage, and Saipe suffers most of it. Fate's just so good with his mechanics when it comes to the anti-air play. Jerky looks around the back. The Jeff would be a wonderful prize, and so Trust Me begins softening up that particular morsel, chewing up like a mother bird to drop into the nest. Out go the slashes from Sparker, but a grouped up Na'Vi are easily able to disperse the damage amongst themselves, and Drujo's still under pressure here. And Trust Me just making sure there's no freedom to bring out the healing, so Sparker or Saipe will fall through the cracks. Another cellular corrosion, an alpha strike onto Drijo. They want this shark at any cost, and he can't afford to leave the point because there's no one else here to try and play it out. There might be an eat coming through as Drijo finally grabs someone within their mouth, but in a 1 versus 6, that shark won't like wait. He's just so evasive. He's managed to get this one going for a little bit longer. Nevix opens up a portal. Fincy makes it over to the point. The freedom charge has arrived, and now it's the danger zone. Virtus Pro have to remain here, or the map is going to finish. A Vibranium Energy Sword cuts through Jerky. Naga's still far away from that ultimate. A couple of percentage points indeed, and now that's going to be a point ceded over to Virtus Pro.
Na'Vi aren't giving it up though. Fate comes back with the Fate of both worlds, potentially looking for the damage boost flip onto Rajaro with that Eye of Agamotto as well. But Spark, at the second that this Lunar Ult is done, is coming back with the Dance of Butterflies. It's off of the objective on the full back line.
Yeah, but Naga holds on the other side, waiting with a resurrection. I don't know if he made it through the portal or if he has for safety to try and make it work. Rajaro warded away. The Sonic Crossbow begins to burn on through the flesh of the Doctor. Not Gallifreyan, just a little bit strange, actually. Naga in the back decides not to use the resurrection. Na'Vi give this one away, and Virtus Pro even up.
Yeah, Na'Vi, even if they tried to use the Karmic Revival, because where everyone would be revived would be on the spot that it was cast, it would have been off of the objective. Overtime had been burning so long, they also didn't really have anyone to be able to hold that space on the point when they're trying to get everybody back from the res into the fight. They would have been absolutely jumped upon from all angles by an uncontested Torch and Ultron and Psylocke. There's no way they're going to be able to win that fight. It's better to have Karmic Revival in this fight, because now it means that Virtus Pro are going to have to find the eliminations with ultimates first to force that, and then have still hold on to ultimates for what comes after the Karmic Revival cast.
Cyber has the second highest damage in the lobby, by the way. Kind of a hit scan monster, but we already knew that one. It all comes down to the carousel mocks, and the party's only just started.
Fire is so close to Supernova, but Saipe is going to be able to kick things off immediately with this Rage of Ultron, which is going to force out that Soulbind very early on from Na'Vi. They either have to face tank it or give up all point presence, as Finzy's already getting into position to cut off the rotation before Na'Vi can get to point.
Oh, deciding to go first. Saipe instantly gets shut down. The Rage of Ultron is declared. And well, Magneto says, didn't ask, don't care. L plus Mag Cannon. The Supernova good to go, and Trust Me assaults the backlines. Fate is returned to the material plane by the usage of a Karmic Revival. Jerky noted on their disengagement, flying away with the Dark Ascent to get out of the tendrils of those flame tornadoes. Drujo tunnels underground and leaves a healing pool on point critically for the remainder of their team. The Rage of Ultron damage is more than enough to slay the shark when they dare to show their face. Another one Crook's pivot over to the Ultron here seems to have already been rewarded. Na'Vi don't really have as much presence on point right now due to the still present Nevix grabbing Crook out of the air, and this is what we talked about when it came to the protection of that EMEA. The retakes are just so hard when you have to consider the Sonic Seduction.
Saipe as well comes back on the rocket and gets the BRB to bring back Dridro. So even though Na'Vi had Karmic Revival, Virtus Pro actually have the revives to stand toe-to-toe with the sustainability that comes from their opponents, especially up at the back of that Freedom Charge. And from it, they'll be able to out-sustain a triple strategist composition and hold on to the point themselves, all while still holding on to Dance of the Butterflies as well, which, give it a couple of moments, Saipe's going to be able to give it all of that damage boost potential. Na'Vi a little bit too stacked right now for Sparker to go for the commitment. Ensong Inferno is going to try and push out the Solid's position and immediately force the fate of both worlds. But Naga was split, the LOS was broken, and the Atom goes down.
Drijo tunnels under the earth, ready to go with... Oh, Drajaro's looking for it from downtown. A crushing defeat there for Drijo. But guess what? With the Ensong Inferno already forced, the Cosmic Yarn Amplifier is free. Na'Vi don't really have the damage here to try and move on through it, and so Virtus Pro could just use the damage which to pick apart their enemies. Fate is on an off angle that cannot be rescued, and so the stagger comes their way.
Yeah, Jerky already burned the Ensong Inferno to force the fate of both worlds coming on for... And now, Virtus Pro going to be holding on to that ground. Still, Spy with 80% to the Supernova. Na'Vi going to have to figure out what exactly they're going to do. Level 1 Crook does have Rage of Ultron to get them onto that fight. Rajara is going to go over to the Emma off of that Magneto, trying to play the Rushdown instead.
All right, Rasharo going to be quite the tricky customer with the diamond form available. Finns is going to have to potentially keep their distance. An Aegis Shield used to protect the Sentients in towards the back. Naga needs help, but it's not going to be coming. The Vibranium Energy Source all that arrives when he cries for aid. Fire around the back, pops the Supernova on very low HP, and so he just decides to leave. He's had enough of this one. Relies on the remainder of Virtus Pro to get the cleanup that they were looking for, and indeed, the cleaning crew has arrived, mop in hand and broom in the other, and they're sweeping through Na'Vi and make a mad attempt to dash for the point, but the Rage of Ultron can't get there. The damage is too great, and Virtus Pro's adaptation over onto Rocket Raccoon is swiftly rewarded.
I mean, Virtus Pro's adaptation towards the bans is swiftly actually rewarded. They banned out Psylocke. For those of you who are wondering why did they ban out Psylocke, it's so if the Torch and Ultron start popping on off, Jerky can't swap over to the Psylocke and start melting them. That composition relies so heavily on that Torch being able to create so much pressure with the spam angles, and then as well you apply on top of it a Captain America and a Psylocke, which means that Na'Vi, they're really spoiled for choice in terms of which targets they can actually go for. Rajaro goes over to the Emma, does mean that he's going to be able to have more pressure onto things like the Captain America, but also means that the second that the Emma has moved on to the objective itself, that backline and the Atom is left incredibly vulnerable. Out comes Soulbind almost immediately, but Virtus Pro just have so much burst damage that they can still find the picks, even through all of the triple strategist triage.
Yeah, another thing that the Psylocke ban really helps with is meaning that Sparker was essentially unmarked that entire time. It's really hard to get on top of a Psylocke with either a Human Torch or a Phoenix, who doesn't really want to use their Dark Ascent from ability chasing a Psylocke, given that they're going to be using that up close and personal against their Psylocke for things like melee cancels for maximum DPS. And that kind of put Jerky in a bit of a bind where they had to look towards the back line. And while Cyper did catch a lot of that aggro, it gave room and time to Sparker.
Dridro as well, coming on through on the Jeff the Landshark, being able to put so much pressure onto the Atom. A lot of these teams, we saw in week 1 that Atom actually on Domination had a 73% win rate on this map type. But now that there's been a little bit of time for the teams to adapt into just how telegraphed Atom is and how you have to sort of play around your cooldowns because of your lack of mobility. Soulbind, incredibly easy to force off of just that first initial little bit of pressure sent his way if he doesn't have that immediate peel. And then also, if you know he's close to the Comic Revival cast and you manage to take him down before that comes up, you force his hand into using the self-cocoon, which then means that a little bit of attention sent his way afterwards, that elimination is going to be able to stick and Comic Revival is denied entirely. Plus, for a dive composition, you're looking for isolated targets. Atom, when he sets up his res, is already isolated because he doesn't want to use his res in the middle of a team fight on the objective itself. He really paints a very easy to pick up target on his back.
Well, the easy targets, they're going to start becoming thin on the ground as Na'Vi have time to adapt and pick their own map from map number 2 after this break.
Smoke screen! I'm hunkering down. Judge! Jury! Executioner!
Mox has a Rema Frost Fit on. It looks like VP have ice in their veins. They are ready to once again go up against Citadel Gaming in the finals, but they need 2 more map wins to earn it, Mox.
Yeah, I think we're going to be seeing a lot of adjustments coming on through in that ban phase now. Because, like, VP, they worked out that draft. With that composition, you either win with the Human Torch or you lose with the Human Torch. All of the resources, all of your fight planning, it's all on Torch. So it actually makes sense. It's viable for them to burn every single one of their bans on a Torch counter, especially because they took out everything that could have synergized with the Venom. The Psylocke removed, the Jeff removed, even the Star-Lord removed, which meant that everyone from Na'Vi for a dive was left with just a Phoenix, and Phoenix doesn't actually dive. She off-angles, or she can play from main, but that means that she needs space. She's not going to be there with the Venom, and that's exactly what Virtus Pro removed from Na'Vi. They had full control of every single angle, every single POV was covered. They always could rotate and scout out where they would be coming from so they could counter away from it. And it meant as well that the fights just didn't go long enough for Adam to be able to win it with Karmic Revival casts.
Yeah, the Karmic Revival only ended up getting value, it seems like once, maybe twice. We saw on the first map of Cradle getting back 2 strategists and a third. I believe Jerky was resurrected as well on that. It's going to be Idris or Path for choice here for Na'Vi, one of Virtus Pro's old favorites.
Yeah, well, on Convoy, you can't go anywhere, especially if, like, Virtus Pro finds so much success with the Torch. You have to avoid Araco.
Yeah, that's true.
Araco, Torch, and Ultron, that's one of their favorite maps to play, especially on first, to be able to break those spawn holds. And it is all going to be about spawn hold break right now. And that's why we're seeing Emma getting prioritized as a ban. Not Jeff, not Mantis. Emma is going to be removed from both of these teams so that you can't use things like Carbon Crush when your other side gets aggressive with a triple Vanguard composition and tries to stall for as long as they possibly can. But that does now mean that Na'Vi can once again save the Mantis for the 12% damage boost so that they might have more burst potential against Virtus Pro's triple strategist, triple Vanguard holds.
Once again, Fate's patented Jeff is going to be taken off the table, and yeah, Mantis allowing the double damage boost alongside the Storm could be critical here. One-sided Jeff. This might actually force out a Stormband from the other side, but first it's going to be symbiotic shenanigans, and we've got to start thinking about how Star-Lord factors into this. Not quite as important against a triple strategist, triple Vanguard holds we see, but often, as Line Pro described to us earlier in the season, you can draft for the beginning or you can draft for the end of the map.
Yeah, beginning is just 1/3. The second and third are 2/3. Mathematically, you do find more value, especially because we haven't really seen as many full holds in the second half of Stage 2 as we have the first. A lot of these teams have figured out very, very quickly. Having things like the Mantis, the Storm, the Moon Knight, the Groot, which is why we're actually seeing the Groot getting removed, not only to isolate out some of those Vanguards so that you can cut off the LOS from that backline, but also to make sure that if Moon Knight does make it in, that we don't see the Strangling Prison combined with that Hand of Khonshu to be able to just deal enough damage to break through any strategist ultimate that's fielded. As Human Torch is now going to be removed from Virtus Pro, which I'm honestly a big fan of, because you don't have enough bans, having gone for the targets on the Vanguards, to have to target things that the Human Torch are enabled by. The Ultron, the Invis, the Luna, all of those would have been able to pass through. It's better to just cut it off by the root and remove the torch itself.
Okay, you don't want to have an unmirrored torch going in with an Ultron and potentially a damage boost, and so it's going to be removed away from both sides. This will allow for the Psylocke to go untouched for now, but I imagine it's not going to be a factor in the early game. Yeah,
Star-Lord, though, is able to slip through for both of these teams, but like you said, Na'Vi is going to be able to have access to that Ultron as well as that Mantis one-sided damage boost, so we can already see Naga on that Star-Lord. I don't think it's going to be staying around, although we have seen a couple of teams actually try and break the triple strategist, triple Vanguard by instead of just going for a brute force roll on main where you literally just try and out-damage all of the sustainability and health pools that the triple Vanguard and triple strategist composition allow for. You just flank to the side, given the fact that the attacker's spawn actually has a doorway that opens up onto that left side and allows you to pop up behind the defenders upon that ramp, which is one of the reasons we've actually started to see the Rocket Raccoons moving their BRB stations so that it's actually inside that miniature door on the left side of where the defenders are currently holed up on.
Yeah, Saipo loves to play in here with the Invisible Woman. Gives great sightlines onto all three Vanguards to have that cleave heal, which is one of the signatures of the Invisible Woman. Let's have a look at this.
Jarrah's on the Angela.
Yeah.
Nevix, though, on that thing is going to be absolutely unmovable, rock solid. The same cannot be said for the Rocket, though. Na'Vi have the goggles on against the Raccoon so that they can remove him and the BRB in one fell swoop.
Look towards the back, frenzied arrival into the small room. This is where the thing is at their most dangerous, but the Venom equally deadly as they are the deadly protector. Saipe resurrected by the BRB. The battle recall has been used, and Fate finds himself just having to chip down this Magneto, who eventually backs off using the Ryan Bulwark. The remainder of Virtus Pro seem to have recoalesced around their front line, and the cart still is not moving because Vincere is just maintaining presence this entire time.
It's Dridro. Dridro had the linear heal coming on through from that small room onto everyone who was being jumped upon by the dive, but also the Magneto, who was on main and receiving all of that sustain from the Joyful Splash. And off of that, Dridro's actually 90% to the first ultimate.
A lucky stab. Not really converts into anything, though, trust me. Inside the Yancy charge, can't swing away, but finally gets back to freedom. And Na'Vi are building up towards a critical mass of ults.
Yeah, Na'Vi do have that Age of Ultron coming on through, but Virtus Pro, they've got the Rocket, Sia, and the It's Jap. We're going to see Na'Vi this time once again not go for that brute force fight, instead looking for the high ground drop down so they can take a little bit more angles. However, Virtus Pro have fortified their position inside room, and it's going to have to be a very well coordinated dive. Out comes the Yancy sweet charge from Nevix that no one from Na'Vi can move off of all of that damage coming on through, forcing Dridro into using the It's Jap just to reposition too.
Yeah, lays down the healing pool for the remainder of the team as well. Prioritizes you in the Joyful Splash coming up close to Saipe. Oh, the Force Physics to stop the disengagement here means, trust me, he's got no more options. What a play from Saipe, slowing down all of the assailants and then making sure their escape was not going to be on the cards. Naga around the back decides not to fire into the Meteor M. It's sent sailing into the back lines in a narrow corridor, but Saipe is going to be the main victim of this one. Fire can't get back inside. There's no resurrection on the table. Nevix, I think, is probably going to be swapping here, given the less than ideal usage of the clobbering time in the 2 versus 6 scenario.
Yeah, but Virtus probably still have teleport fight to come on through and fight. Yeah, he's going to just jump up into a little bit of a harder position for Na'Vi to be able to try and cancel him out of it and then look for a TP right into the back.
Gets that down. He forgot to bring the TP down.
He forgot to bring the TP down for his team. So Virtus Pro are going to have to walk the traditional way into the fight, which also means that they have to walk through the chokes into the Heaven's Retribution from Rajaro.
Oh, that's when the pressure really starts to get to you. Just forget the little basic things. Of course, Fire's not really a Doctor Strange player. Short interruption there onto the Eye of Agamotto. Until 50% of the old charges once again redeemed. Drijo taking out and brought on back straight away. Yeah, the body block in the way. Naga managed to wrap around the back. These small hitboxes really do flourish against the element guns as Nevix and Vincere put themselves on business on the point, just standing strong in the way. Angela's so easy to get away from that Captain America. An isolation here of level 1 Krug, but Fi can't afford to really chase this one down. Instead, getting inside of the invisible boundary erected by Saipe. The End-Song Inferno's already been used. It's an opening for Sparker. Vincere can now be used without much in the way of retribution. No way to take it down instantly. It gives over a tiny bit of additional HP before Rajaro just slays all of them. In comes the clobbering time, and the stuns are good to try and allow Drijo to move on forward, but now the prime melee DPS has arrived in the form of Jerky. 2 players maybe off the side. It's a good resurrection there, bringing themselves back, trust me, from the side. Saipe with a force physics pushes Naga's soul from his body. 3 seconds remain, and Na'Vi at the last moment appear to have floundered. Virtus Pro, despite the TP shenanigans, bring themselves back.
It's the Jeff shenanigans. Oh my goodness, the E coming on through. Like you said, it's not just the End-Song Inferno getting used before the Rocket Cosmic Yarn Amplifier, it's the End-Song Inferno getting used before its Jeff, which means that Drijo is able to come through and get a huge eat. Doesn't manage to convert onto Trust Me, who's on the Venom and is able to swing off at the back of it. But still, Na'Vi lose one of their main pieces needed to continue that fight in the form of that strategist, and all of a sudden, Virtus Pro have a lot more sustainability and survivability on that objective. A couple of well-placed body blocks as well from Nevix on that thing, and it means that Na'Vi don't get the opportunity to have their Venom on the objective when overtime would hit.
Interesting combo as well, using the clobbering time to stun people, so they had no chance of escaping the clutches of Jeff. I imagine that's how we saw Trust Me on a hypermobile character getting caught by that, but honestly, this has been a lights-out game from Saipe on the Invisible Woman. Managing to shut down the first dive coming through from Trust Me using that invisible boundary and then catching him on the swing out with the force physics and then taking out Naga during that backline assault as well. They had no means of mitigating that Galactic Legend apart from pure violence.
I mean, Virtus Pro's rotations too into all of those different small rooms when they saw that Na'Vi were on hyper mobile compositions with things like the Angela wanting to be able to play off of dives coming on through from that Venom as well. Avoided so much pressure. Now Nevix is going to be on the Angela themselves, already clearing out Trust Me on the Captain America, but Na'Vi do have a backup plan in the form of the Adam Warlock, who has both the Soulbind for the first fight in case they need to start sharing out that damage when the off-angle rotation comes on through.
All right, already a lot of space given away here to the side of Virtus Pro. Na'Vi want a bend, but don't break defense rather than holding at the spawn doors.
That was already Soulbind though. Dive came on through, but it was a soft dive. Just pressure from Sparker and Fi teasing that they would go for the commitment, which means the Soulbind's not there. Self-res has already been forced from Naga because Na'Vi just don't have the opportunity to give up all this ground.
Oh, this backline's just being torn through right now, but Saipe traded back from Trust Me, and that's a good pick because it means that BRB is going to be down as well. Look at this positioning here from Jerky, doing their best to just try and stand, but Nevix has fallen heaven on top of them, and the powers of Virtus Pro combined are going to get a lot of push.
Nevix is going to start rotating too, figuring out whether or not Na'Vi are going to be looking for a strange portal, someone to try and go behind and stall out that convoy. And indeed, there's Trust Me, and there goes Trust Me.
Oh, he's not going to take long to get back, at least he's got that full sprint.
Yeah, but Na'Vi do not have a great amount of ultimate economy. They're going to be relying on this Rage of Ultron to open things up. The Angela's already behind them. The Assassin's Lunge brings 2 of them out from choke into the It's Jeff, which means that both the Luna and the Angela get displaced.
Good focus onto Dredro. Now it's time for the dance of the butterflies. Level 1 Crook to the heal on through it, but could not heal themselves, utilizing the Rage of Ultron. Naga, no chance to resurrect. Navi, no chance to heal. It's down to Trust Me dancing on the point, and while it's an amusing sideshow, it's not going to be impressing the judges. They hold up no 10s, they only hold up L's as Virtus Pro take away one of their comfort maps that Navi decided to bring us to.
Virtus Pro on match point, and honestly, comfortably. They have been looking incredibly strong, relying on previously what worked for this team, right? Sparker on the Psylocke, Fire on the Starlord. That's something that we've seen all year round, but Dritter really impressed me on the Jeff. Only goes down a sum total of 4 times in those entire 2 sides, despite the amount of focus fire coming their way. And you can see too, 13,276 healing done by the Jeff. That's a lot of sustainability for the triple Vanguard line.
A huge amount of it. Navi unable to really match when it came to that healing output, but of course a lot of their time spent defending was running away and respawning.
Oh,
another
this
big play from Cypher. Like, this was actually a masterclass from Cypher IMO, like one of the best invis performances I've seen in a while.
And in here too, you can actually see Dridro pathing not just for the environmental, but also closer to Saipe, so that if they get pressured by Navi trying to break its jab, Guardian Shield's going to be in play, and that jab's going to get healed. This moment as well, it is literally just a rock or a hard place. There's no way that Navi are going to be able to find the turnaround. If they try and leave the Dance of the Butterflies to go to the objective, everyone who's left behind is going to get eliminated. If they try and stay inside the Dance of the Butterflies, that objective is rolling forward entirely uncontested, and the round is going to finish. Really good plays coming on through from Virtus Pro to just push Navi into those difficult, really decisions that they could never really win against.
Yeah, forcing only bad decisions, but you can make good decisions in the Marvel Rivals store right now because the Grim Lady is available, Mox. If you want to roll through the enemy team in style, throwing piercing thorns left and right and money to all who decide to come and look for it, Hela's Grim Lady is here with all the swagger and power that Hela's known for.
And I mean, Hela is going to be known for a couple more bits of power, I feel, when we move into Season 4.5, given the fact that that team up with Namor is looking pretty nasty, especially for free compositions to try and keep a hold of, given the fact that it's going to be playing anti-heal as well. So maybe when you want to look for a way to break some of those convoy strangleholds, your ranked games, Hela and Namor are viable options, and you definitely don't want to miss that costume because of it.
Yeah, Guangong saw the triple shot, just said, okay, you get an anti-heal, and you get an anti-heal, everybody gets an anti-heal, and you guys get a break.
I want your soul. Hell unleashed!
All right, 2-0 to Virtus Pro here, and what's looking like a reversal of what happened previously, Marks, where we saw some pretty interesting back and forth between these teams, but it was never quite as dominant as we saw on Idrisil Path, and now Navi get to choose on that, but it's got to be Convergence.
Yeah, and that's not going to be a great place for them to go, regardless of where we end up. Central Park, dominant flyer map. Not the greatest opportunity when Virtus.pro have been showing that much prowess on both the Human Torch and the Star-Lord. You look at Hall of Djalia, maybe, like you said in between the break, trying to invoke a trauma response, but the last time Na'Vi took Virtus.pro there, they lost 2-1 off of, again, Star-Lord shenanigans. And that leaves Symbiotic Surface, but Symbiotic Surface is prime real estate for things like the Psylocke and that Venom coming on through. So yeah. I think regardless of where you go, ban drafts are going to have to change. If you're Na'Vi, you have to start removing these pieces of power that Virtus.pro have been able to find.
Yeah, at this level in EMEA, it might be like we're looking for like angles, millimeters worth of advantages because all of these teams are so good that there's not going to be a map where like, oh yeah, Na'Vi go there and they win. Like, we're just at the point now where all of these teams can play every map. They don't have any real weaknesses, but there are just slight advantages that can be gained. And we don't really know what's available for Na'Vi here in terms of those weaknesses. The perma-banning of the Jeff seems to have somewhat hamstrung them, but also for leaning into the Mantis when it comes to a Protect, it feels like Na'Vi have constantly been on the back foot and forced off of the Mantis.
Yeah, so one of the problems that Mantis has when she uses her ultimate is that she doesn't get CC immunity.
True.
So she's very easy to shut down with things like the It's Jeff, where you can literally just carry her out of her team's AoE radius for the Soul Resurgence to not apply onto them. Plus, even if you have things like the damage boost, the Mantis does at some point need LOS to apply those damage boosts. What Virtus.pro have been able to do for both map 1 and map 2 is displace Na'Vi, cut the line of sight between the Mantis and her duelists so she doesn't get to apply those as frequently.
Okay, a big priority given here on Hall of Djalia to that Star-Lord. That's because Na'Vi know Virtus.pro would love to defend this with an Ultron and potentially with a Human Torch.
Yeah, that Star-Lord save is going to be absolutely huge. It does mean that they're vulnerable to the Mantis ban and potentially the one-sided Mantis save coming on through here for Virtus.pro too, but they have shown that they prefer having the one-sided Jeff, and they're going to go for it yet again. As we've seen, its Jeff might not provide all that much sustainability when it comes to the 100 heals per second, but being able to literally displace players from Na'Vi, especially if they're close to ultimates, means that you can let things like the Adam Warlock through, despite normally needing to prioritize it as a ban.
Yeah, and it also forces out a Venom counterban as well, because you don't want Symbiotic Shenanigans to be up. And now Virtus.pro have a pretty free Protect here to potentially have a one-sided the one-sided Luna if they want to try and pivot that in. But remember that their Protect here is going to be answered with a ban and Protect for Na'Vi before Virtus.pro's final ban comes through.
Captain America is going to be coming through from Virtus.pro, which means that, they're going to be able to off-angle dive with the Captain America and the Jeff to, again, just permanently force Na'Vi's position to have to pivot. Even if the Star-Lord's been saved, if he doesn't get the resources from the rest of his team, he's going to be able to do very, very little, especially if something like a Invis woman is constantly having to look at the dive coming her way. Na'Vi are going to try and weaken now any other components of that dive that Virtus.pro could be able to afford. Giving a Captain America Idol Aura and a Jeff would make him pretty invulnerable to all forms of damage, as we can see that they've been able to take one-sided Luna to have that Idol Aura attached to that Star-Lord when it comes down to the 1v1s in the duels.
Question is, do Virtus.pro want to remove something like a Psylocke here, potentially a
Invis, maybe?
Yep, get rid of Invis. Don't want all the Ultron. Okay, they don't want the drone on the Star-Lord as well as the Idol Aura. They'll settle for just one of them.
That and also Rage of Ultron can be pretty annoying, especially if you play like a Star-Lord yourself to come on through and they've got Rage of Ultron to make sure that you can try and come on out with the batter. But going for that Ultron one-sided for Na'Vi could mean that Sparker gets a target on the Psylocke. So I do like the fact that Na'Vi aren't actually going to be going for an Ultron themselves currently. Crisis is actually in pure mode. He's been subbed in, and we're going to get to see him come through with that Winter Soldier to be able to put pressure onto both the Captain America that got saved as a priority, but also the Psylocke, which is now going to be looking to put pressure themselves on the Flyers.
All right, Hall of Djalia. This could be where Na'Vi face elimination from our bracket. They've stamped their ticket to Atlanta, but going through in the last seed and potentially being forced to play on day one and against multiple teams before they even see their EMEA brethren could be quite the grim fate to have to face.
They're going to be starting on the attack too, which means that the Captain America and the Jap are already going to be in position to just leap upon the backline, as you can see them all the way up there on that window ledge, scouting out Navi's rotation, as trust me, is going to be on that Venom. Naga, the Starlord, and they actually put Fade onto that Invis for the 2-2-2 composition to have the Guardian Shield stagger onto the Starlord as well.
All right. Crisis is in, actually. Interesting. So the Winter Soldier going to be a big factor here. This could actually mess with Nevix's disengagements as well. When it comes to this whole Crisis noted exile, the execution isn't quite there afterwards. Vincere with a quick disengagement. And Sparker just working these margins, making sure there's no safe space from which Naga can operate and has to play a lot more centrally to the remainder of the team. Have that kind of mono angle coming through from the side of Na'Vi, but the mono angle, the spear, it just means that all of its pressure is put into a single point, and the armor of Virtus Pro can't quite sustain it. Dredro taken down, but Spark was brought back previously by the BRB. They're all going to have to share out the healing of a lone Cyber for now, and it's not quite enough as the Raccoon is sent scurrying elsewhere.
Virtus Pro are going to go, though, for a teleport play. I'm not sure if they're going to be able to make it in time. Someone's got to tag onto the point, and no. Vincere goes down almost immediately before that portal can come on through. And now Virtus Pro are going to be split. They lose their Psylocke late. They lose their Starlord even later. And Na'Vi get free roam of second to set up a dive and buy themselves even more objective space.
Na'Vi reinvigorated, bringing in a new member from their roster in the form of Crisis and really leveraging the utility that the Winter Soldier brings to the table. And it's only going to get more dangerous as the Kraken Impact's good to go.
But what's the target going to be? Virtus Pro's players are so mobile, and Crisis is immediately targeted down before Na'Vi can use that as a win condition. Out comes the Feast of the Abyss looking for any trade. Sparker, the win condition for Virtus Pro, the Dance of the Butterflies, has also been removed, which means that Level 1 Crook thinks it's winnable. Out comes the fate of both worlds, and there too is the damage boost from that Galactic Legend.
Rajara has been a monster on these finishing blows on the mag, by the way. Homie is locked in on the sticks right now, throwing iron volleys left, right, and center. The mag cannon is converting, and the old reliable has returned.
Sparker's just waiting for his moment, though. Dance of the Butterflies, potentially to force the invis boundary. The backline's a little bit split, too. They know that the Psylocke's got the ultimate, which is why Na'Vi can't go as forward as they would like, policing Virtus Pro's respawns, which means that VP get an opportunity to contest.
All right, Sparker with the Dance of the Butterflies can't isolate one target inside the invisible boundary. The healing is total anyway. Crisis waiting for the fight to break down as a Kraken Impact's good to go. Notices his fire on the disengagement, and the Trooper's Fist immobilizes them. So there's no chance for the disengage aided, but oh, in comes the Kraken's Impact. It missed Dredro. The culling order hasn't been given over, and so now it means that there's going to be no reset off the back of it. Dredro just manages to get back to the Cosmic Yarn Amplifier. Vincere falls elsewhere. Crisis at least gets it done with Rota Stern, but now Fire has little to worry about up in the air. Rajara starts to build up the energy on this Meteor M. Not quite the connection they were looking for, but Naga finds it via the element guns, and Rajara is back to a tried and true iron volley damage rolling on through. They're not going to prioritize getting rid of Nevix for now, who's just able to bring out the Unbreakable Guard and keep this point contested. There's a little bit of additional pressure on the back line, so Bruce Banner won't last long against all this either, and Virtus Pro should be ejected from the point in short order for another cap.
Yeah, Tridor was able to find the eat onto Fate, but the elimination didn't actually come through onto the invis because Fate had the double jump and went invisible. And Virtus Pro couldn't figure out where the invis had gone, which meant that Na'Vi didn't actually lose the players, which would have forced them to fully disengage and allow Virtus Pro to hold onto that space and tax the return. Now Na'Vi as well get to hold onto the ultimates. Damage boosted with the fate of both worlds for either the Winter Soldier or more likely that Venom, as Virtus Pro swap their composition. Out comes down to the Butterflies, forcing that Lunar ultimate. Trust me, has to go for his ult at the same time. And Na'Vi find two weak targets off the back of it.
2-for-1 trade there, make it 3-for-1 as Nevix is overwhelmed. Sparker frozen in the back. Level 1 Cook's just nasty with him, Mox.
Crisis is going to have the Kraken Impact to yet again counteract that it's Jeff coming on through from Dreadroid. Trust me too. Going to be on that wall looking to drop down and put pressure onto Virtus Pro's players. Split the team so that they can't go for a full all-out brawl on the objective to stall it.
Oh, the invisible boundary has to be used here to save Rajaro from a briny grave. Saipe take him down elsewhere as it's Jeff. Speculative in the back. Might need to spit their own members onto the point. There's only 35 centimeters remaining. And Virtus Pro, from absolute dominance on Yggdrasil path, absolutely get themselves demolished on Hall of Jalia.
I mean, I think the secret for Na'Vi is just saving the Star-Lord.
Yeah.
Venom was surviving in the first couple of rounds that we saw them. The problem was the severe lack of follow-up. This time around, though, there's no such issue. I mean, trust me, going in as well, all the way to VP spawn to put pressure onto the Invis woman, which means that either the team has to turn around, give up frontline presence on the objective, and peel, or Invis boundary comes up, but it's off of the objective on their own spawn point, which gives a free green light for Galactic Legend coming in through from Naga. You really can tell that Na'Vi went into this game with a game plan, and it is working out for them. That save on the Star-Lord and the Luna to empower it more has been working out like a charm.
But also the pivot over to the 2-2-2 has been big for them as well. Being able to just lay out this much damage.
Look at the casualties. They've revisited the spawn room 3 total times.
0-6 for Fincy. Bit of a stinker here, but I think that Rajaro's also been able to do so much impact on this Magneto as well. Being able to just stand in the way of Virtus Pro and show your mechanics really has been a boon for Na'Vi.
Someone went for the penny mines. I already see someone on the side of Na'Vi down to 50% health, but that's just going to generate into free ultimate charge for level 1 quickers. Yeah, trust me, he's known for this at this point. He locks the Spider-Man and tries to find a cheeky grab off of the map onto one of the attacker teams as they come through from spawn.
That's the 4th time they visited the spawn room. That's a kicking. Sparker gonna be mirroring the Winter Soldier now. Remembers the good old days for dominance of Virtus Pro at the invitation that was off the back of Sparker with that Winter Soldier. Iron Bulwark given on through. Just one use for Trooper's Fist to lift themselves up onto that high ground, knowing that it's not quite as sustainable as they would like. Fire's already been taken down. It's Fate who finds that one with the Force Physics. And trust me, is more than happy to clean up the mess that Fate left in their wake. Rotter Stern's explosive bullets will carve through many. And Na'Vi rebuffed the first assault without issue.
Yeah, Virtus Pro tried to bully their way onto point from main rather than wrapping around the side lanes, which meant that Na'Vi had all of the angles. Wait for Virtus Pro to put their feet onto point and try and bull Dridro's Eternal Bond up faster than Na'Vi's ultimate bank and just send Trust Me directly into the back line. Sparker has to turn around and pivot looking to peel, which means that level 1 quick finds a huge freeze and opens the floodgates for Na'Vi to converge on all of their targets. Fi this time though moves over to the Human Torch. You can't dive him. It now falls to the Star-Lord to have to match wits in the sky.
Okay, rolling through high ground, I much prefer. You've got to take this space away from Trust Me and Naga. And Trust Me just constantly being this annoying factor. Vi looking from the back, really wants to get onto level 1 Croak, but Rajaro's already taken out Fincy. Someone's going to fall through the cracks when you try and work these angles because your resources get divvied up elsewhere, Trust Me. Going to be using that symbiotic resilience to try and disengage, but it's straight back into Virtus Pro. Nevix is there waiting. The healing should be good as Na'Vi have plenty of ultimates to try and get through this one. In comes the Eternal Bond first.
Oh, the hook!
Strangling the Gilling Prison. It means they get to carve through Fate fairly easily. Fincy opens up a portal for any reinforcements to get back. Toot sweet here inside the invisible boundary. Things start to get complicated. The meter and they down upon Dridro. The perfect catch for Rajaro. The right click not with coming. And now from the back it seems like there's been an isolation of Saipe. People can move through the portal, yes, but they're not in range of Saipe's heals.
So Sparker's going to go over to the Wolverine, which means that he's going to be able to counter grab Trust Me when he tries to come on through from those dives. My worry is Fi has Supernova, yes, but Nevix used Strangling Prison. You don't have anything to force Na'Vi to stack into the damage coming on through from those tornadoes. Plus, the second you use that Supernova, Naga is going to be going for the Galactic Legend. Spark is going to now move on to that Ultron, Dridro the Rocket, because they know that they're going to lose someone on this entry, likely the Human Torch, as he pops that armor and just tries to dive the backline to look for a trade.
17 more billion swaps, but you know that Naga's going to shut this one down instantly before Naga can even hit a bullet from the element gun. Crisis has already been so clean with Rotter Stern accuracy. Bro is an absolute prodigious generational Winter Soldier. Trust Me once again finds the soft exposed underbelly and digs in his talons.
Yeah, that galactic legend is just impossible for Virtus.pro to deal with. Also, I think Fi was actually either out of range of the BRB or it got broken before he went down, since he didn't get brought back up by it. Now he's getting the Guardian Shield stagger, but this is last fight coming on through from Virtus.pro, and they don't have a good ultimate to be able to open it up with. They've got to just rely on dive attention from Finzi, drawing Na'Vi's attention. But when Na'Vi have damage boosted Fate of both worlds, they're going to be able to live the brawl fight and win it easily.
A reversal from Idrisil Path potentially on the docket. 3-0 Marvel Rivals off the cards, coming in close and personal. Naga manages to dodge away, but fires quick in pursuit. Oh, the Rage of Ultron just gets instantly decimated. I'm going to have a crisis myself. A bit of a miss there with a long range off the back of the Kraken impact, where the damage could already have been done inside of a Sonic Vortex crisis in a 2 versus 1. Gets a little bit of healing as well. How did Na'Vi manage that? An express delivery into the enemy back lines. Finzi does his best to try and sustain through this one. Fate takes out the Dredro. The invisible boundary cannot heal Finzi through. The collective damage, a raid by Na'Vi. It's a speculative use of the Meteor M. Someone on Midtown just got struck by it, but it's Na'Vi striking back at Virtus.pro. 2-1.
Okay, there is reason, there's method in the madness for why Crisis used Kraken Impact on an Invis woman who had double jump, and it's zoning, quite literally, because they had Invis boundary. Not just that, they also would have had Guardian Shield to be able to stagger in front of either the Human Torch or the Ultron, which meant that Rage of Ultron would have had so much more staying power and lethality to its namesake as well. So the fact that they were able to put so much pressure onto the Invis entirely zoned Saipe out of that last fight, and meant that when Invis boundary comes up on the objective, it's too late, and Virtus.pro have already lost too many players to be able to pull the fight back.
Having both the Flake and the Guardian Shield as well for Naga means 0 casualties. 0 returns to the small room. 28-0. This is why we've seen the Star-Lord become a priority ban for many of these teams. And for the side of Na'Vi, a priority protect that was well rewarded.
Yeah, I mean, the problem for Na'Vi, though, is that Virtus.pro are already 2 maps up. They're still on match point. Since they've now lost this one, they get the opportunity to take us to not just a different map, but they also get the opportunity to decide which ban side they want to be on. So what they could honestly do is actually pick the side which allows them to ban before Na'Vi get an opportunity to save, and instead of insta-banning the Jeff or the Mantis, because so much of Na'Vi's strategies, it appears, relied on that Star-Lord, they banned the Peter Quill instead.
I mean, taking it away from Naga could be a huge asset. Sorry, I've been allergic to these first point holds. I think I'm having an episode, Marks. And well, there it is. Like, Na'Vi refuse to go down 0-3. They don't want to be summarily destroyed by Virtus.pro, and potentially the momentum of a series going back their way. Now, we can assume that Virtus.pro probably going to try and avoid domination for their map pick, but it was incredibly close against Na'Vi. Maybe we see a return to Araco.
I was going to say, I think it's going to be Araco, because then you put so much pressure as well onto Na'Vi to have to force ban out either the Ultron or the Human Torch. We'll have to wait and see, though, whether we're correct, as we'll be back with that map after this short break.
So a series it is then. No speed running through to our best of 7 between the victor of this series and Citadel, as Na'Vi decide to strike back on Hall of Jalia. But now, Mox, the series is in the hands of Virtus Pro on match point and having their map pick.
Yeah, and they're going to take us to Convoy, but it's not going to be Araco. It is going to be Midtown coming on through. I wonder if that's going to be trying to force the bans over towards the Vanguards to free up duelists and strategist lines. As we've seen on Yggdrasil Path, a lot of those Vanguards, things like the EMEA and the Groot, were removed from both sides, thus freeing up drafts to allow in stronger strategists and duelists for both of these teams to have their comfort picks open.
That said, Na'Vi seemed pretty comfortable playing against the Groot on Hall of Jalia, but it was a different geography. Nevix's Groot seemed like a bit of a known factor there as we jump into our ban phase and we look towards our first bans, and it remains EMEA, so Star-Lord's in play. Instant save? Maybe. Virtus Pro did get the opportunity to save before Na'Vi can go for the ban. However, it does mean that Na'Vi get the back-to-back bans coming on through. Virtus Pro, even though there's less environmental drop-offs for the It's Jeff, will save the Jeff themselves, as Na'Vi are actually going to ban out the Venom because of having that Jeff and symbiotic shenanigans. They just simply cannot allow it. So now the Mantis, the Star-Lord, the Ultron, the Torch, all of those are still up for grabs for both sides. Worth noting, Crisis still in. Seems like Na'Vi don't want to lay down a winning hand just yet. First save being deliberated at length as they wonder, is it going to be the... No, not the Star-Lord this time. Instead, the Luna. Well, if you have Crisis still in play, you can play the Winter Soldier yet again, and also you can combine Kraken Impact with Strangling Prism, because we do actually see Groot a fair bit on Midtown, especially on first, to just be able to break the back of all of those defending teams. As Virtus Pro will be able to guarantee themselves one-sided Jeff, and we saw on Yggdrasil how much they were able to do with that Jeff coming on through, not just the ultimates, but the ability to heal from when you're being dove on and while still retaining your presence on the convoy to still at the attacking team. Okay, one-sided Jeff, and there it is, to protect on the Star-Lord, making sure that Naga still has the trick in their back pocket if necessary. Virtus Pro will decide on their final ban now, already having taken out 2 Vanguards and a Strategist. Maybe they'll try and focus in towards Crisis's hero pool here, knowing that he's a very good Winter Soldier, a very good Punisher player. Yeah, but I mean, if you go for the Punisher, they're just going to play the Winter Soldier. Ooh. Adam, I feel like, is going to be gaining more value because it's something that could be used both on the defense and the attack. It also means that Virtus Pro can here pick up one-sided Adam, or it's going to mean that Na'Vi would have to burn a ban on making sure it's not one-sided Adam, so that Virtus Pro can't just go for an Adam low-key backline and stall out that first push. All right, that's going to be the grab onto... Once again, the Captain America. It served Virtus Pro well once on Yggdrasil Path. It served them poorly on Hall of Jalia. It's going to be the Mirrored Man onto... Oh, they're going to get rid of a Human Torch. Yeah, fine. Getting a lot of respect towards him. Plus, Virtus Pro still had Invis and still had Ultron open. Which also still had Luna open too. This is the thing, when you go to Convoy, Vanguards catch so many bans coming on out because of the free compositions that could come through, which means that strategists and duelists have an easier time finding their full compositions that allow them to hit their peak damage, as we're going to be seeing Virtus Pro yet again on that Psylocke. Yeah, trying to find those squishy underbellies of the defense can be quite the play. As we move over onto Midtown here, Virtus Pro still on match point, temporarily stalled in their path to victory, but Na'Vi are world champions. They have resilience, they have roster depth, they have mechanical skill. All they need to do is align all of those at once to try and get themselves to a 5th and decisive map. They also have their draft aligned from the previous map. They've got the Star-Lord, they've got the Luna once more. They're going to be defending for the first time, as we can see that Virtus Pro are going to be rolling on out with Hawkeye at the beginning, and indeed the 4 to be able to start bruising on through all of that brawl potential that Na'Vi want to have, holding this corner and trying to stop that objective from moving as much as possible. Well, Virtus Pro's Vanguard pool was a little bit thin on the ground, with 3 being banned away from a confirmed by Na'Vi. So unsurprising to see them might go for something a little bit unconventional. Charge Aegis unavailable. Please bring it back, Guang Guang. Trust me, towards the back, wants to get on top of the Rocket Raccoon, knowing it's a little bit pointless getting that close to Saipe when they've got such proximity to spawn. And you can see that Saipe is actually firing back with a little bit of additional damage here. Nevix hasn't been able to really get involved in any fights thus far, and Metallic Curtain will be able to mitigate a lot of the damage coming through from that Awakening Rune. This is kind of a mono-directional push here from Virtus Pro, and Crisis is able to alleviate a lot of that pressure as Rajaro might find themselves overwhelmed inside of a cafe, getting in close and personal for a brawl. The Fantastic Art continues to move until Rajaro takes up duties of stopping it mid-road.
I mean, Rajaro, trust me, just trading that position while Crisis peels any of the dive rotations coming on out from Sparker with that Captain America, meaning that that objective has not moved all that far. Rajaro doesn't have an environmental, does have access to a spawn door though, and might be able to find the elimination off of the back of that one that away. As Na'Vi have lost some of their players. Yeah, they're stalling the range so that they can't go for the regroup, reportal.
Yeah, as long as possible. What was speculating on potentially the instant destruction of the spawn door, but realizing that it's better to just have the longest respawn possible.
Are we going to see Ensong Inferno combined with Dance of the Butterflies for Virtus Pro to be able to find the eliminations off the back of it? Invis Magic comes on through from Crook, and the healing is enough to survive the God of Thunder, even with all of that damage coming on through from Virtus Pro's side. Freedom Charge does come out from Finzi at the same time, however, though, so Virtus Pro are still going to be able to brawl against Na'Vi's Eternal Bond.
And Nevix returned rather quickly. Rajara's had to use the portal just to return themselves to the fray, so no team recontest can come through from the side of Na'Vi. Fight around the back has finally found the angle onto level 1. Croak, they managed to take down Naga so fast. The Seer evaporated before the power of the Ensong Inferno. But above all of it, Crisis catches a bash with the Psionic Blade. Cuts through the Master of Magnetism into ribbons, I say. Iron filing ribbons. And Spark has got iron in his veins, forces iron prices from Na'Vi, and they're going to pay that troll toll, as Trust Me is overwhelmed with the tide of Virtus Pro. A full cap surely going to come on through. Crisis late to arrive, and the Storm Surge puts them in the ground.
Well, Meteoram normally absorbs damage, but unfortunately when you're only one body and you're absorbing all of those Psylocke dashes, you're not going to be long for this world, as the swaps are going to be coming on out. Crisis over towards the Winter Soldier yet again to put a stop to the shenanigans of the Psylocke with that Captain America that have just had Na'Vi's head constantly on a pivot. They really have just not been able to find any angle of establishment to have their backline kept safe. When Virtus Pro decided to get aggressive, Sparker already on that high ground too, has scouted out the entirety of Na'Vi's composition and seen the backline vulnerable.
All right, Sparker working the back right now, trying to make sure that Na'Vi cannot claim this high ground for free for a safe space for their strategists. Trust Me puts their body on the line to keep this one contesting. Crisis is pivoted over onto the Winter Soldier to make sure that Sparker can't stand up in these battles against them. This could be big here. Nevix coming in from the top. A lot of his targets have actually been taken away there by Dredro. A touch of anti-synergy for Virtus Pro, as Na'Vi still able to stand strong. There's going to be extra damage coming through though, and there's a damage boost too from Fate if they want to just try and carve through this rather quickly. Level 1 Crook falls down to the Ensong Inferno, combined with the Sparks detonating. Sparker wraps around onto Trust Me in a 1 versus 6. All he can do is stall the cart using Symbiotic Resilience, and Virtus Pro roll forth more.
Yeah, the target focus just goes out onto Crisis so that he doesn't get to build up the Kraken impact in that fight, nor contribute to burning down the Ensong Inferno before it's able to hit the ground. Rajara is going to go over now with that Meteor M, trying to find the elimination onto Virtus Pro, but Finzi just pops the Freedom Charge. And I don't think Na'Vi have the space to even muster any form of contest before Virtus Pro have that cap. Thanks to the Dance of the Butterflies coming on through, there's going to be a little bit of a stall with the Vanguard trying to do their best and hold, but that's going to be it.
All right, and there goes the remainder of Na'Vi. The healing just wasn't there, Mox.
Na'Vi held on to their ultimates, though. They're really prioritizing having a good defense on third to stop all of the momentum coming through from Virtus Pro, so that they can then scout the angles and stop the Psylocke, the Captain America, and the Phoenix from getting all of what they want. Crisis will be able to put a lot of pressure from the downtime, but it also means that he's not going to be in a good position to utilize the ultimate just yet.
God of Thunder once again available. Those stuns off the impact could be used to really facilitate a big eat from Dredro. Na'Vi Looking for an arrival, but the car still rolling on forward. Trust me, way lane on their roll forward. I think I may have seen already a swing from them as well. Has used a frenzied arrival to disengage behind the curtain of Rajaro. Crisis has options here with the Kraken Impact on the back half. In comes the Meteor M. Could be played a little bit more safe here from Dredro. There's the stun coming through. The combined damage is crazy right now. Dredro still overwhelmed. Naga made sure that one was going to happen, and Fincy's shield not strong enough against the element guns. The element of freedom is not as strong as what Naga was slinging right there. A disengagement for Fi is vetoed by Na'Vi, and now they can hold up the doors.
Yeah, Virtus Pro might have Dance of the Butterflies, but they don't have any other ultimate to put the damage into it, which means that Na'Vi with Fate of Both Worlds coming on through from Fate should be more than enough to sustain through that Psylocke's ultimate, especially since they can figure out where she's going to be rotating into and have that Guardian Shield as well, contributing so much of that healing AoE. Crisis trying to figure out as well how much ultimate charge he can build. Finds the hook, not onto the Psylocke to cancel the ultimate, but onto the Captain America. Fate uses the ult, but Na'Vi have nothing to damage boost and just have to use it to move forward aggressively onto Fincy instead.
Damage boost is fine, at least to get rid of Fincy and send the rest of Virtus Pro back into these back rooms.
Yeah, but now you don't have Fate of Both Worlds against the Ansong Inferno. Coming on through from Fi, nor do you have any ultimate to actually find the hit onto Dredro, which is why Virtus Pro are getting into a position to go fast.
2-2-2. This is quite the bulwark that has to be carved on past, and Fincy's going to be the one breaking into the back once. Level 1 Croak, but the freeze is solid from Fate. But the back line, they've just been decimated. Virtus Pro finally found their opening. They grabbed with their claws and they absolutely tore it open.
Yeah, Crisis is going to be coming in with that Kraken Impact level 1 Crook too. Going to have the invisible boundary. So Na'Vi do have win conditions, but Virtus Pro have a lot of space that they can start falling back into. Plus, Cypace BOB will be up and available. Dredro is going to be so close to the edge too, with an environmental on that eat. And Song Inferno is going to be kicking things off. Finzy jumps in, trying to punish the fact that everyone's looking up in the sky, which means that no one's looking on the ground, and the Captain America has just ripped through the back line.
I think that Trust Me might get revived here by an emergency BRB. Indeed, Fate comes back with a heads-up play. The Awakening Rune good to go, and it means, oh, that's 4 allies eaten by Dredro. But hey, in the end, it's all good and dandy as a fantastic car still rolls forward, and Virtus Pro cap with 29 seconds remaining.
Okay, so it's Jeff, yes, ate the friendly team, but also meant that Na'Vi, if anyone was on the point to try and hold it long enough for Crisis to come on through with Kraken Impact, they'd have to use it there. Plus, it pushes a target then to use the Kraken Impact off of the objective and purely onto the Jeff, which means that Virtus Pro would be able to turn their attention to just that one target and very quickly remove them. As fast is the name of the game in being able to complete Midtown, as we have seen many a time. Those defenders and how close the full heal of spawn doors is still giving your backline line of sight onto your front line, holding down the fort on the point.
All right, for Na'Vi, once again, the pressure is on. Virtus Pro looking hot to trot here on Midtown. And you know what? The 100% Thor win rate, it's not quite there anymore. I think that there was a failure of it yesterday. But now Trust Me is once again going to be picking up the hammer. And it does have its uses in breaking these triple. These 3-3 holds by displacing, particularly the Magneto, who has few options for disengagements.
Yeah, the Venom too, as we saw when the 4 rolled into third every single time. Trust Me tried to come on through and use that swing to get himself into a position. He was immediately displaced by the Thunder Surge coming on through from the 4. However, Na'Vi now going to be relying on Spawn Break. They've got the Mantis for that damage boost. They scout out the composition that is going to be. Here comes Punisher Storm. Or potentially, yeah, there we go, Punisher Storm with the Mantis damage boost, which does in fact stack.
It does stack, and let me tell you, Crisis, his Punisher is pretty biblical. Bro is a generational aimer. I think he's got some of the best raw tracking in the game, but mostly going to be using the shotgun, of course, up against these Vanguards. Virtus Pro, they roll forward like a wave, and Na'Vi, they are not the moon. They can't control the tide. Khonshu looks on forlornly.
So one thing that Nevix is going to bring to the table, he is going to be taking a lot of spam pressure coming on through, but he does give damage reduction to his team when he jumps to them to survive the consequences of the Goddess boost when Naga decides to give his team 12% additional damage boost. Tries to go for the knockdown too onto the Storm and set Dritter up for a big it's Jeff.
Crisis can quickly dodge the Jeff using the E if need be. But it seems like Julio's just prioritized the heals right here. Yeah. Moving into the back, and it seems like a successful bait for Na'Vi, but they still lose Naga.
Yeah, they've been losing this 4 as well. Every single time Trust Me's tried to move on forward, but still that thing is falling lower and lower. Might be brought back by the Rockets BRB. Now Na'Vi, with those ultimates, can look to push the first corner.
All right, Rajaro with the Meteor Rem. Might be able to roll on fourth. Okay, damage boost onto the Punisher ultimate here. Time to make a decision if you're Fincy. Is the disengage going to be enough? Up close and personal. Great protection of the Punisher ultimate. Naga's here with the second phase of damage, but can't find the remaining members of Virtus Pro, at least not outside of the invisible boundary, where the healing's more than enough to deal with the Omega Hurricane.
Yeah, no Jeff NATO. Virtus Pro, remember, secured one-sided Jeff, so you couldn't carry them outside. As Virtus Pro go for the wombo combo. Clobbering time, unblockable to all from Na'Vi into Eye of Agamotto follow-up and fight, but they're overextended. And Na'Vi finally are coming in with the eliminations. Virtus Pro were out of LOS of their strategists, and the damage boost is finally doing its job.
Sparker found in the back as well. It's Jeff channeled by Trijo. Once again, going to be prioritizing just getting back into the fight and healing as soon as possible with that joyful splash. Fincy making a decision right now. Do I stay or do I go? I need to touch the cart. Nevix is going to be the first one up on the docket to make that one happen. But the damage from Naga is real, and the portal's already ready.
I mean, the damage from the stall as well. Virtus Pro have been able to chip that time bank down to almost under a minute. They're going to go for a portal. It's not going to be on the high ground, as they have to worry about that 4 pushing them all off of the back of it. Na'Vi are about to hit that win condition. Fate of both worlds or invisible boundary combined with Final Judgment. There's nothing that Virtus Pro are going to be able to use to heal through.
Eyes on Crisis right now as Fire starts to work the back. An off angle from a Doctor Strange, just a little bit of a rarity to see in pro play, but it still has its places. Nevix taken down by Naga. It's a great opening here. A good dodge from Sparker as well. Heads up play on the Rocket Raccoon, and Fincy's made to pay. Level 1 Crook gets that one with the Force Physics. 5 forced to give away a little bit of space, and well, the rest of the space should be given away as well here. The Metallic Bulwark all in, protect the VIP. Crisis takes the damage, but his health bar's like a yo-yo, up and down and up and down, but rising forth a Na'Vi.
That was very much protect the president all the way through that fight. The way that Virtus Pro tried to stop the Final Judgment pocket because they didn't have the means of healing through it was cut off the synchronization by taking Crisis down before Final Judgment could be used alongside the Strategist Ultimate. That's why level 1 Crook used the Invis boundary. That's also one of the reasons why Rasharo used the Meteor M to suck up all of the damage going the way of his Punisher. Fate 2 didn't need to use the Fate of both worlds. It was just a bulwark to be able to pocket the pun. Crisis now is going to move on over. Job done, spawn broken. We're going to go on to second and the Winter Soldier to keep Sparker under wraps.
It's his turn now to tag in for a touch of objective contest, but in the corner, just slips past for Thor. He's slow in many cases. In comes Streeter's potential for the 8 big stun potentially came through, but Naga's more than ready for the arrival of the Shark. Rajaro actually took them out before there was even an attempt at the landing from the Omega Hurricane. He's been nasty with the Iron Volley all day. Rajaro, he's hot hand.
Yeah, there's not enough trades either to warrant Sparker using the Dance of the Butterflies, which means that Na'Vi are going to get a safe window to build up the Invis boundary. You can see Crisis trying to figure out where exactly that Psylocke's gone, but Sparker has long rotated back to his team to keep the ultimate in play.
Okay, this is a danger zone. If you get held in the subway, you can be held here for years and years. A more billion or more as Fincy wraps towards the back. Wants Fate, the invisible boundary drawn up just in time here for the side of Na'Vi. Trying to catch Sparker on the disengagement there. Maybe not the best option for Rajaro. And now there's a lull, a quiet in the fight as Nevix used the resources. Fight has managed to make it all the way behind. Oh my god, the end song is right there. And you can eat so much of the incoming damage towards it, utilizing that Meteor M. Crisis still thinks of it, it's winnable, and so looks towards the back, but they've lost all their friends, and they look around, there's no one at their shoulder.
Oh, what a wraparound from Fight. He's not going to be punished for that super deep position either, because Ensong Inferno replenishes the Phoenix's health bar entirely. Now there's a minute left. Na'Vi, yes, have Kraken Impact, but they don't have the space to be able to use it safely, which means that Crisis has to be so peeled for and healed and protected to stop Virtus Pro from just picking him early.
Price is still super dangerous as he moves on forward, so Nevix knows they have to give away the space to avoid getting hooked potentially. How deep is Fi right now? Bro's in Botswana! We're fighting in New York!
We're not fighting on the objective though, Harry. That's the point. Na'Vi had a minute. They're now down to 30 seconds. They
Oh, the patty cake and the securing of their position using the Magneto as well. For Na'Vi, it could be curtains as they're going to be sent back to the spawn room real quick. Rajara's already opening up the portal, so it's going to be a last-second fight.
Listen to the dance of the butterflies, though. How many bodies can they get through all at once? It's going to be up to Crisis and level 1 Crook to carry the fight.
Trust me, as the God of Thunder ready to go in such a confined space, it could be everything. Fate's got the healing. The fate of both worlds will be decided here and now, as that's going to be the God of Thunder striking down towards the back line. Doesn't quite get the impact because Virtus Pro are just so evasive. They're such a fast composition. Caught in the corner, Fate gets isolated. Vincere returns to the points. He's got the freedom charge for the additional sustainability, but nothing trumps the strategist ultimate of level 1 Crook, who brings up the invisible boundary and draws all and sundry in to try and make sure this one stays alive for Na'Vi. I called it curtains, but it's a curtain call. Taking a bow off the back of a beautiful performance here. Nevix returns on the Angela, but Heaven's Fall has been much overstated. Virtus Pro are going to have to defend on third.
There's an unsung hero in that fight. Someone stopped Sparker's ultimate. Dance of the Butterflies got cut to 50% when the portal came through.
Ooh.
We'll have to go back and see that one because not having Dance of the Butterflies to be able to break through the healing done by Invisible Boundary cost Virtus Pro that defense. They'll have it now for this next fight, and Na'Vi don't have any defensive sustainability capabilities against it. They do have the Doctor Strange shield to absorb some of the damage dashes, but they have to be so careful about how they play this one. Though Finzi gets caught overextended, and Na'Vi now get an opening.
A Mega Hurricane prepared, but Spark, who strikes first. The Dance of the Butterflies has many partners on this dance floor, but none of them are leaving without a good workout. And, well, they're going to be walking back from spawn for their cardio.
Momentum fully drained. That's great for Virtus Pro. Now they've got both the HGF to find the isolation on the two strategists, and also the Endsong Inferno to have the CC immunity and dodge out from the Kraken impact. Oh, Agamotto, they're just going to go aggressive. They're not going to allow Na'Vi any form of space, but because they went so early, Fate still had all of the iframes of the Dark Teleportation. Doesn't it? It's not there for the Jeff ultimate, though, and both the Bucky and the Thor are being taken for a swim.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be difficult. Actually, they've got Trooper's Fist and they've got Storm Surge. Oh, no. Crisis still falls off. It must have been on cooldown, maybe to try and dodge the incoming damage. Rajaro still stood up on the point as Fincy's annoying in the back. I think there are going to be some respawns. Is that Nevix? Nevix is
Nevix is spawn camping. Crisis has to use the Kraken impact, but he doesn't find the connection on the map because of the bulwark.
Okay, Fincy in the back, still annoying all of these strategists. And guess what? Here's my special friend. Here's a Magneto I bought in earlier. Sparker, nuclear bombed from orbit by Naga right there. Getting in close and personal. Fate buys all the space. A portal opened in favor of Na'Vi as Rajara's already had to use that one. Or rather, it's actually about to open once more.
Level 1 Crook's got the invis boundary. Na'Vi have control of the objective. They can use it on the objective itself, both to heal through Sparker and to slow everyone from Virtus Pro who have to stall the objective into the God of Thunder and Agamotto combo.
Well, the God of Stall has arrived, and it's a freedom charge coming through from Fincy, taking to the skies. Trust me, lands down, but up comes the metallic curtain, dodging all the damage. A no-sell there from the Magneto. Fires falling low. Crisis wraps around the outside, taking up Naga duties this time into the back. No stuns are found. Rajaro can't convert. The C has been drawn on up, and the focus fire burns through it quickly. But does it seem that there's been too much game? No, the Dark Maelstrom rips through Dredro. Even after they grab multiple players, Sparker tries to isolate a target and finds Crisis in the back line after using the Dance of the Butterflies. Inside of his Dagger Storm, there is more than enough healing for Na'Vi to try and keep this one sustained. Virtus Pro coming back so fast from their spawn. Down goes Fi, so close to the end song Inferno. But maybe the song will have to be sung in overtime. A quick right click is all that they need. Sidepace down as well. Nevix does their best to brawl out. The Magnetic Greatsword has been formed. An ancestral heirloom to look upon as Na'Vi once again reach for the heavens and demand victory. Virtus Pro will be taken to extra rounds.
Full push, full push. However, Virtus Pro still had time when they did it, and so they have 29 seconds in addition. Oh my goodness, Na'Vi. It felt, especially since they'd had to use Invis Boundary to have the sustainability to burn down Saipe's Cosmic Yawn Amplifier on the objective, that the Dance of the Butterflies would be the nail in the coffin for this team. Rajaro does such an insanely good job, by the way, on the Doctor Strange, just going between his backline with the shield and also holding the objective, which actually allows Fate to survive that Psylocke ultimate, and then the Cloak and Dagger actually has primary AoE range, which means that Eternal Bond gets built up in time, has the opportunity to get shielded from the Meteor M with both Rogero Seraphim Shield, as well as the opportunity to go for the iframe themselves with the Dark Teleportation of the Cloak form. And we get a full push, and we go to another round of Midtown as Na'Vi refuse to give ground and refuse to get sent out of this tournament.
All right, quick Caesura here for the Fate Glaze session. What a heads-up swap to the Cloak and Dagger, realizing the ult advantage Virtus Pro has, knowing they could no-so one of them with the right-click. And also in that final fight got 2 Eternal Bonds, by the way. That's kind of bonkers.
The blind as well. When Virtus Pro were looking to stall the objective as long as they possibly could, the Vanguard's getting hit by that 28% increased vulnerability is absolutely insane value. Na'Vi, though, have a time ahead of them. They've got to go for Spawn Break, and Virtus Pro are going to make this time bank hurt. They've got the Rocket, they've got the Atom. It's up to Naga on the Phoenix to find the off angle and take both of them down before the ultimates come into play.
Dude, Fire is a wild off-angle duelist on the Doctor Strange. There's nothing more to say about that one. Rogero trying to isolate the Magneto over here, and the Soul Bond's already been used. That's a major defensive cooldown that's no longer going to be available for Virtus Pro, and it can't be used to save Nevix. The BRB should be enough, but that means Shreejo's going to have to use a Cocoon Revival. Oh, crisis! Where has this guy been my entire life? The mechanical demon is risen!
Virtus Pro try and take refuge in the side rooms, which sets them up to Phoenix stuns into Crisis follow-up. He pulled Kraken Impact before Rocket pulled Cosmic Yarn Amplifier. Virtus Pro, though, do have a Strange Portal available to them. Looks like Rogero actually is going to try and counter-TP them so that Na'Vi get a little bit more opportunity by just blocking off any of the choke that they could walk through.
Ends up being wasted because Fi didn't use the TP. Maybe they heard the chant earlier. Crisis needs to be rescued here so we can use the Kraken Impact already in overtime. Na'Vi needs to stay on the point at all costs, and that's why there's so much pressure coming the way of Rogero. Dark Maelstrom burns through. Trust me, we're so close to their ultimate, but Fate wasn't there in time with the Eternal Bond. So close to the culling aura inside of the invisible boundary. There's going to be no stuns given over either by Rogero. Na'Vi have got nothing off the back of their ultimates, and it's going to be Nevix in the back with the quick stuns. An anti-play coming through off the back of Spark with a dance of the butterflies. Na'Vi may have had the ticks, but they did not find the tox. And, well, that's going to be Virtus Pro holding at the end of first.
Yeah, Eternal Bond, like you said, not in time to be able to catch the 4 Invis boundary coming through as well to match the sustainability plus the slow. At that point, you're looking to try and find the pick onto the Invis woman, which is exactly what they try and do with things like the Kraken Impact with a follow-up on the blind, but they don't find the vulnerability opportunity either. And because they used the portal previously, Virtus Pro know that there's absolutely zero punishment if they just all ult dump in and clear Na'Vi off so that overtime burns out fully. But still, for only having a minute on the time bank on a convoy map into a Rocket and Atom composition, Na'Vi got significant amounts of distance. Midtown is not over yet, especially because they're going to be starting off with Defender's Position, Torch Spam, Venom Soft Dive Stall, and Ultron Pocket for your flyer.
You're absolutely right, Mox. This is a reasonable amount of distance to get off your minute. And now Virtus Pro are going to have to try and break this one again against the triple strategist. So a lot of healing is going to be pushed out. We haven't seen much of Crisis on Ultron thus far.
Sparker could be the hero here. That Psylocke being able to put the pressure onto both the Ultron and the Torch. This is what Na'Vi are placing their hopes, not just of this map, but of this continuing in the tournament and getting the opportunity to go up against Citadel. Damage boost from the Mantis on Torch. Pocket from Ultron on Torch. Absolutely everything. And you can see that Crisis actually has got the Idol Aura on the Ultron because they know he's going to be a point of weakness that Sparker looks to pressure.
Yeah, going to be that primary leverage, which is going to be expended upon Na'Vi, who for now are playing it very reserved. They're not getting as much contest on the cart. Yeah, just trying to play a little bit safer. They'll occasionally poke in to stop the cart on its maneuver forward, but they know that this is going to be a 2-fight play either way with what's on the time bank and how much distance they have to play with. Looking in towards that Phoenix, a great dodge coming through from Fi, avoids the hot drop onto themselves. A quick grounding onto Naga, but manages to slide up onto the high ground. Here comes Sparker for the second phase, but the butterfly dash can't connect up onto the high ground, so they take themselves back down to terra firma.
So far, no elimination, but Na'Vi are giving up significant amounts of ground. This is all going to come down to who gets these ultimates online first. Spark is going to have to dance to the butterflies. Na'Vi don't have a defensive ultimate unless Rage of Ultron comes through in time, and it does! The Crisis goes low! He's able to get above the Solix hitbox and manages to heal the team!
Unreal plays from Crisis. Everyone hit 1 HP. The Cosmic Yard Amplifier is the final note, though, and it will still start to burn on through. Fate and Level 1 Crook are going to have to return in good time. Level 1 Crook's already made a maneuver here over onto the Doctor Strange. They're going to have time to portal, and Fate's going to be able to maybe... Here we go again. I don't know if they've got the... No! They don't have it ready. And this is going to be Virtus Pro surely able to complete and stab themselves the ticket to the finals. Na'Vi are consigned to 3rd place as the Bears rise up and roaring challenge the Citadel.
Oh, they can't keep getting away with it. We said that there isn't environmental pressure in comparison to places like Central Park and Spider Islands, but there absolutely is pressure to being able to pull off your Portal of Parala. Oh my goodness, Stridra with the absolute huge eat, because I mean, if it had gone to an actual brawl fight, Dance of the Butterflies had already been used. Ultron would have been able to pocket the torch. Supernovas would have been stacked on the objective in overtime, despite not having a group for the Strangling Prison to pull everybody in. Virtus Pro would have no choice but to go directly into all of that heat. And they just managed to avoid it entirely by stopping the teleport coming on through. What a play. What a match.
Na'Vi once more having to head into an international LAN as last seed from EMEA. It did not stop them last time. Virtus Pro, they're going to be happy just to have made it this time around, and they are going to have a chance to play for 70,000 USD in the grand finals up against Citadel. But this is a show we've seen before. Citadel, they have had a little bit of Virtus Pro's number sometimes. If Virtus Pro go for the polybans once again, we might see a similar fate.
Yeah, I feel though, like, now that Virtus Pro got the opportunity in a best of 5 format to go up against Citadel and figure out, experiment with their bans to see what exactly was worthwhile, this series is going to be closer than it was the last time. Because once they figured out, rather than burning bans on pure Vanguards who you can ban them out of, but Poly is unlike Poly in Stage 1. Poly is now flexible. It's not just the Captain America that Poly plays, it's every single Vanguard, essentially, in the hero pool available currently. Which means, even if you ban out the Captain America and the Venom, he's just gonna go for something that still gets essentially the same job done. So we can have a look and see, oh my goodness. Hell in Space was the one that launched 1,000 ships. That Jeff Eat Ultimate was the one that launched Virtus Pro into the upper bracket to a 2nd place or a 1st position to now go head-to-head with Citadel for that revenge. 1,000 broken keyboards, I'm sure Jeff has supplied.
Well, let's think about how the grand finals plays out as well. Because I got to have a quick chat with Fate in Guangzhou about what happened going up against Citadel, how they kind of got a little bit swept after like being in that commanding position, coming in from the winner's bracket, and Citadel having to go against Virtus Pro for that land spot. And Fate said not to underestimate like how good it is to come in from a lower bracket, feeling very hot, feeling very like warmed up and hyped up and ready to go into a team that's probably a little bit colder coming in, because the best case scenario here for Citadel is that they got to warm up against Chopped, and we don't know if Chopped are available for that warm-up. So let's have a quick chat with Nevix to see how they're feeling for the grand final. Hey, bud, I think that face says it all. That was a little bit of a toughie. I'm gonna straight up ask, what's the deal with Thor on Midtown?
Well, they banned Emma, they banned Groot. We don't have too many options left, so it's either like a static shield tank, or it's like it's 4 that, you know, does a lot of damage. Yeah, I don't know. We just went for it. It was honestly like a panic pick at the last second. The door, I'm like, trust me, team, I'm just going for it. Let's send it.
So talk us through the HGF onto Doctor Strange, because that's now the 2nd time that we've seen you guys use that strategy to be able to win your matches. Is it something that Dridro basically tells the team, hey, look, I'm saving my ultimate, we have to wait for Strange teleport? What exactly goes into setting up those kinds of plays?
I mean, that's just Dridro. He says, like, I'm going for it. I have my ult. He usually, like, he always just does it by himself. Like, I don't know.
Wait, so did you guys not know until Trigger just said,
I mean, he says, I'm
eating?
gonna cancel TP. He screams that, and we're like, did you get it? Did you get it? Everyone's like excited. Yeah.
Actual horror movie vibes in the comms as you wait for the shoot to drop. Let's talk about Hall of Jalia, where the only place where you guys had the most significant problems. How come you guys had so much trouble breaking first there?
I don't know. We were not sure what comp to play there, and they had a good answer with the Bucky. I think the Bucky made it really hard for Vincere to do anything on that map because it's so open. Like whenever he commits, there's nowhere to go and hide and pick up megas without having to run forever. So like it became just awkward for us. So that's why we struggle.
So why do you think the Human Torch is working out as an angle for the team? Because when we saw you guys playing in the first stages of Stage 2, you were trying to play that Human Torch with the Ultron, but it wasn't working out as much as it currently is. Is there a specific reason why all of a sudden that kind of play is working?
Wait. What do you mean exactly? Sorry.
Is it like a new adjustment to the bans? Did you guys sort of like VOD the map and figure out that maybe you needed to rotate in different ways or give more resources over to the Human Torch so it could find more value?
So I don't know, Torch is like a bit tricky right now. Sometimes it's super strong, sometimes it's not that strong. It usually depends on the enemy DPS characters. Like if you have Star-Lord is a great counter to Torch, or like you can match him very well and mark him. So it's mainly like that Star-Lord, I think, and how much resources the Torch can get.
How are you guys feeling going into the grand finals now against Citadel? Obviously, yesterday it was a very close matchup, but the first two maps didn't really go your ways. I won't ask you to leak your bans, but I will ask how confident you're feeling.
I'm pretty confident. I think we learned a lot from like these two matches, particularly. Like the backline situation is really weird right now. Like it used to be like 4 support bans and everyone just played the same things over and over. But now we see a lot of Jeff, a lot of Raccoon, and people who's running around everywhere. So it's very chaotic. But I'm confident. I think we're doing pretty well right now.
Yeah, the backlines are all over the place, but your mind is exactly where it needs to be. Thank you so much for joining us, Nevix, and good luck in the finals.
All right, thank you, guys.
All right, that was the, I believe, team captain of Virtus Pro. I'm not entirely sure, but Vanguard Extraordinaire nonetheless for Virtus Pro off the back of a 3-1 victory over Na'Vi, plunging Na'Vi down into